Random House Audio presents The Proving Trail by Louis L'Amour. Read for you by Michael Crouch.
Chapter 1. All winter long I held them cattle up on the plateau, whilst Pa collected my wages down to town. Come first grass, I taken them cattle down to Dingleberry's, and I told old Ding what he could do with them, that I had my fill of playing nursemaid to a bunch of cows. He made quite a fuss, saying as how Pa'd hired me out to him, and I'd no choice, being a boy not yet 18. So I told him if he figured I'd no choice, just to watch the tail end of my horse, because I was fetching out of there. I knew Pa was down to town gambling, working with my money as his base, but Pa was a no-account gambler, generally speaking, and couldn't seem to put a winning hand together. Nonetheless, he might have enough put by to give me a road stake, and I could make do with $5, if he had it. Only when I rode into town, Pa was dead. He was not only dead, he was buried, and they put a marker on his grave. It taken the wind out of me. I just sort of backed off and sat down. Pa, he was no more than 40, seemed like, and a man in fair health, for somebody who spent most of his time over a card table. There was a lot of strangers in town, but one man who knowed me, and who knowed Pa, too, he told me, "Was I you, I'd get straddle of that bronc and light a shuck. Ain't nothing around town for you no more, with your Pa dead." "How'd he die? It don't make no sense, him dying right off like that." "That's the way folks usually die, son. Everybody knows he's going to die sometime, but nobody really expects to. You let out, son. I hear tell they're hiring men for work in the mines out in the western part of the territory." "How'd he die?" I persisted. "Well, seems like he killed himself. I never did see the body, mind, but Judge Blazer, he seen it. He shot himself. Lost money, I reckon. You know he was always gambling." "Hell," I said, disgusted. "He'd not kill himself for that. He'd done been losing money all his life. That man could lose more money than you'd ever see. You take my advice, boy, and you light out. There's some mighty rough folks in this town, and they won't take to no wet-eared boy nosing around." That couldn't make no sense to me, because I'd been around rough folks all my life. We never had nothing, our family didn't, scrabbling around for whatever it was we could find after Ma died, and Pistol, that's my brother, taken off. It just left me and Pa, and we'd gone from one cow camp or mining camp to another. Now Pa was dead, and I was alone. Pa wasn't much account, I guess, as men went, but he was Pa, and a kindly man most of the time. We'd never had much to say to one another but hello or goodbye, or how much money was I holding. Nonetheless, he was Pa, and I loved him, although that was a word we'd have been ashamed to use. Pistol, he was my half-brother, 10 years older than me, and he'd taken off a long time back, 6 or 7 years back. Pa kind of hinted that Pistol had taken off along the outlaw trail, but I never did think so. Pistol always seemed the kind to ride 'em straight up the middle. The Bon Ton was down the street, and I was surely hard up for grub. I'd been so long without eating, my belly was beginning to think my throat was cut. So I bellied up to a table in the Bon Ton and ordered, thinking my stars a body could still get him a good meal for 2 bits. Until I sat down there, I'd had no chance to give much thought to Pa. We'd sort of taken one another for granted, or so it had seemed to me. And all of a sudden he was gone, and there was a great big hole in my life and an emptiness inside me. Nothing had ever seemed to go right for Pa. A couple of times we had ourselves a little 2x2 outfit, but the first time it was get run off or fight, and Ma didn't want us to fight, so we pulled out. Then the Comanches run us off the next place, stealing our horses and cows, and leaving us with a burned-up wagon and no stock. Next time Pa was about to make out, Ma took sick, and it needed all Pa had just for doctor's bills and such. After that, Pa took to gambling reg'lar, and it was all bad cards and slow horses. Man at the next table was talking. "Never seen such a thing," he was saying. "Not in all my born days. When they raised him that last time, he'd taken out a 6-shooter, and there for a minute nobody knew what was going to happen. Then he put that gun down in the middle of the table. 'Ought to be worth $20, he says. and I'll raise you 20. 2 of them stayed, and when the showdown came, he was holding a full house. Well, sir, that started it. You never seen the like. The cards began running his way, and it seemed he couldn't do anything wrong. If they could have gotten the governor into the game, he'd have owned the territory. I tell you, he must have won $8, maybe $10,000. The waitress brought me beef and beans and filled my coffee cup. She was a pretty redhead with freckles, and when she leaned over to pour my coffee, I looked up at her, and she whispered, "You be careful. You be real careful." "What's that mean?" I said. "I never said a word." "I don't mean that. Was I you, I'd fork that roan of yours and ride right out of town and never even look back. If I was you, they'd never see me for the dust." "Why? What have I done? I ain't been to town for months, and no sooner do I ride in than folks start telling me I should leave." "You better," she warned, and walked away. Well, I drank some coffee, and it tasted mighty good. Then I went to work on the beef and beans, half hearing the talk at the next table about that card game. It was that 6-shooter did it. He'd been losing steady until he staked that 6-shooter with the pearl handle and the little red birds inlaid into the pearl. I declare, I just stopped chewing. I sat there for a full minute before I leaned over to that man and said, "Sounds real pretty. Did you say red birds and a pearl handle?" "That's right. Talk about lucky. That gun worked a charm. Soon's he put up that gun, his luck changed, and there was no stopping him. Medium-sized man, with a mustache. Had him a mustache, all right, but he was a tall, thin galoot. Wore one of those Prince Albert coats, a black frock coat, you know." He peered at me. "Do you know him?" "The gun sounds familiar. I got an eye for guns, and a man wouldn't be likely to forget anything like that." "He sure was lucky. Won him maybe $9,000–10,000. More'n that, he won the deed to some big cattle outfit up north. He seemed to make all the wrong moves, yet he kept pulling down the high cards." The other man at the table looked around. "Only reason he didn't win all the money in the world was because those other fellers didn't have it. He just won all they did have. I seen it." They went back to talking amongst themselves, and I finished what was before me. Meanwhile, I did some thinking. Now, I'm not quick to think. I act fast, but I consider slow. I like to contemplate a subject, turning it on the spit of my mind until I have seen all sides of it. This here shaped up like plain, old-fashioned trouble. I was right sorry for Pa. I'd be sorrier later on, for things never hit me all of a sudden. Yet maybe I shouldn't be sorry for him, because Pa died right at the peak of the greatest run of luck he'd ever had. He died winners, and not many gamblers could say that. Certainly nobody expected Pa to beat the game, but he had. If he had come off that run of luck alive, he'd have lost it all had he continued to gamble. So he passed out a winner. Shot through the skull, though. Now how come that? Whose was the bullet? What finger squeezed off that shot? Now I could see why folks were suggesting I get away while I could. They didn't want too many bodies cluttering up the town, and me being his son and all. I walked across the street to Judge Blazer's. He was not only a judge, but the coroner as well. He was a-settin' up there on the porch of that hotel, tipped back in a chair, smoking a big cigar. He seen me coming, and squinted his eyes to make me out. I promise you, I didn't look like Sunday meeting time. I'd been all winter up in the mountains, and it was almighty cold up there. I was wearing all the clothes I owned, and I'd made a hole in a blanket for a poncho. "Judge Blazer," I said, "you buried my pa. I've come for his belongings." He just sat there. Then he taken the cigar from his lips. Now, son, you know your pa never had nothing. He was never much accounted anything at all, and all he'd done for the past year was gamble. We done buried him our own selves, and he had just $3.06 on him when he passed on. He had him a gold watch and his 6-shooters. One was in his hand, the other was on the bureau. He hitched himself around in his chair. "You're welcome to 'em." He got up and went through the door ahead of me. He was a big man, and fat, but folks said he was almighty strong. That little of what looked like fat was really fat. I never cottoned to him much. But had he not...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?